Gentlemen, we've got David Weir and Paul Barber with us. Now, the first box has been ticked because Fabian Hurzeler made a very good impression at his introductory press conference. Very composed, very confident and in control of what he was saying and came across very well. Do you agree?
Definitely. I thought, he communicated really well. I mean, again, it's so easy to sit and listen to an hour-long press conference and hear someone speak fluently and confidently with humour, and then you suddenly realise it's his second language. And he's 31 years of age, facing the British media for the first time in his first Premier League job. And I think, those qualities, that confidence, but at the same time the humility that he showed in that hour, I think was one of the reasons why when David, Tony and I first met him, we were almost immediately convinced that he would be the right candidate for the job.
And we should say that you're a veteran of unveiling managers with England as well as Brighton. Can you remember some of the memorable ones, your favourite ones?
Oh, I think, looking back, Sven with England was significant. One day Ramos at Tottenham, because it was such a significant appointment for Tottenham at that time. One day had won 5 trophies in 3 years with Sevilla. Obviously here, we've had some terrific managers with Chris Hughton, obviously with Graham Potter, then Roberto De Zerbi. But today I think Fabian showed again that he's going to be his own man. He's going to be different to all of those. He's got a very, very strong personality and an obsession with football, but at the same time I think he's got a sense of humour and a sense of what is ahead of him, and a recognition of how big the Premier League is and how big this job is a good start for him to have that understanding, I think.
We've mentioned how fluent Fabian and how intelligent he is as well. I think we were all sort of engrossed in his hour-long press conference. But that's part of the package now, isn't it, David?
I think it is, and I think the communication, both externally, which you saw today, and then internally, and I think Fabian spoke about it, in terms of the leadership styles now. Football's changed, the athletes have changed, and how you communicate with these guys is really important. And I think he showed today that, Paul's point about in a second language, it was really impressive, the messages he got across and how he came across as a person, and the players will watch that and they'll get a sense of him, and he's already spoken to some of them in terms of trying to establish those relationships, and those relationships are really important in terms of just getting the trust and the authority and just the buy-in to get people moving in the same direction.
I think he used that phrase, didn't he, the grounded one. And it made me smile because a couple of times in that press conference, he called out members of staff that he met for the first time yesterday. Not only did he recall their names, but what they did for the club, and was just recognising immediately that there are more people than around the football club that can help make him successful. The players are obviously a critical part, the most important part, but the staff around him, the less celebrated people who don't necessarily get the profile or the recognition. It's those small things, I think, that differentiate top coaches and top leaders when they pick out the small details and recognise the people that are going to help them be successful. And I thought, again, that was very, very impressive because we didn't prompt him to do that. That was something that came from him, came from his personality. And I think even the phrase that, the grounded one was just amusing because, we hadn't spoken about that before. We'd never heard him say that before. That just came out naturally in the press conference. I don't think he was even making a play on Mourinho and the special one. It was just, he was trying to express that he's got his feet on the ground. And I think that's another good quality.
The other phrase he used was friendly authority, which means I've got a collegiate approach to this, but also I'm the boss.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think, again, certainly in any team, you need a leader. You want that leader to have a sense of humility and friendliness, but at critical times, you need the leader to take tough decisions, and people need to know who that is and that they're prepared to take those tough decisions. And I think he's got absolutely all the qualities to do just that.
David, you would have done the main technical study of Fabian. What did that show?
I think, fundamentally, Paul, we want to see a coach who improves teams and improves players, and that was really clear to see from where Fabian's point, where he took the team over. He established an identity. We've spoken about that, having an identity here that's attractive and the fans want to see, the fans want to watch, and they look forward to going to the game. So that's a big part of it as well. It'll be different to what we've had previously, and he'll put his own stamp on it. But the fundamental aspects are he makes players better, he's a teacher, he's a coach, and he also improves teams, and the work he's done previously has shown that, and You know, it's no secret we're data driven. So we've done the background in terms of what the objective data is telling us, and then when you meet the person and you ally that to the work he's done, then we're really confident that we've got a real good solid candidate in terms of everybody talks about how young he is, but when you speak to him, when you look at what he's done, it's really, really impressive.
We've mentioned that the game's changed, and as two people have appointed managers in the past, how difficult is it to make that leap of faith and employ somebody that's different, in a different mould, in a different generation? Because it must be so easy to stick to what I suppose, but we know this game, it doesn't stop for anyone, and you've always got to be evolving. But that ultimately falls on you to make that appointment, doesn't it?
If it goes well, it's definitely my decision. Tony's decision. If it goes bad, it's a technical decision. No, I think there is an increasing trend towards having confidence in younger coaches and coaches that haven't necessarily played the game at the highest level.
Career coaches.
Yeah, people that have actually set out on a pathway to be a coach. And as we all know, being a head coach in a Premier League club is not just about the football. There's so much more to it. So you need to have a rounded experience of all aspects of leadership to be a head coach in a Premier League club. So there's always a concern, potentially, with someone who's younger and hasn't had the years to create that rounded experience that you need. But I think in Fabian's case, because he took the career path so early, effectively he's been coaching for 10 years already. And you wouldn't think anything of a player finishing at 34, 35 and being a head coach in the Premier League club at 45. Yeah. It's the same gap of distance. They might have a few more years and miles on the clock, but in terms of coaching experience, it's similar. So for us, I think once we sort of almost blanked out 3 and 1 as the age and just talked to the person, talked about his football philosophy, his experiences, heard about the way he would run the squad, how he would talk to players, what his discipline standards would be like, you got the confidence very quickly that actually the age was just the age. It was just a number. It wasn't a big factor in the decision. But breaking the mould, I think, is it's not just done by us. I think there are clubs now across Europe that have appointed young coaches. Nagelsmann is a good example. So we're confident in him and we're confident in the appointment.
It's a little bit more common on the continent, isn't it, to have a career coach, somebody that hasn't really played the game and is just concentrating on coaching. It's not so, I suppose, it's not so common in England.
No, but I think it will become more common, Glenn. I think because when people see that there is a pathway like this one available to them, and you look then at Wenger, you look at Mourinho, you look at other very successful coaches that haven't necessarily had a great career in the game as a player, then you realise that the opportunities are there. And I think players are changing their attitudes as well towards that. In my experience, they don't necessarily say, well, you haven't played 500 or 600 games at the top level, you can't be a coach. They don't look at it like that anymore. It doesn't even, I think, enter a lot of players' heads anymore. So it's changed. I mean, David's got far more experience of that than me, but it definitely, in my time in football, has changed a lot, particularly in the last decade.
Strikes me that 3 times in a row now you've appointed overachievers. So Graham Potter, Roberto De Zerbi, and now Fabian Hurzeler. And is there a premium on coaches who achieve more with the resources they have than they really should? They do better than they ought to, given what they have at their disposal.
I think that's definitely something we look at in terms of who can make the most in terms of what they've got and put together a team and put together a unit and improve teams and players, as we've said before. I think that's fundamental. We like to think we have a recruitment model that can identify and attract good young players. So if you can add to that somebody who can improve them, put them together in a shape and a style that's attractive to watch and aids that development, then it's a pretty successful formula. So I think that's definitely part of our method and identifying coaches who can develop individuals and improve teams is a big part of that.
Yeah, he sounds very keen to work with the young players at the club, and he said to Glenn and I that what the great pleasure in the job for him is working with individuals and improving and developing them. That's exactly what you want from your manager, isn't it? As people, not just as players.
Yeah, that came out in the meeting we had with him, a few weeks ago, where he talked a lot about making people better. And as a coach, that's music to our ears, because that's actually, in our model, what we need. Of course, he's got to determine selection and tactics for games, but over a course of a season or 2 or 3 years, our model relies on coaches making the players we bring in better, because that's how we create our value, which enables our model to progress and succeed. So I think, the fact that he loves doing that, the fact that he loves being on the grass, the fact that he likes making players better and people better is absolutely what we want from a coach.
It's well documented that we, or the football club, should I say, have a rolling list of candidates for certain positions. How long has he been on the club's radar?
I would say a little while. I mean, we always try and start thinking about the coaches we might need in the future before we need them, because one, it gives you a running start rather than a standing start, and secondly, it enables you to track progress and keep data up to date, so that when you do need to make that change and when you do need to bring that coach in, you've got more information probably than most clubs have who start from a standing position. And that's not to say, right now we're looking for Fabian's replacement. that wouldn't be true. But certainly as weeks and months go on, we are looking at coaches that are making progress around the world with more limited resources, that are perhaps achieving better things than people are expecting of them, and we're starting to build up ideas and data on those coaches. And it's important because succession planning is a critical part of normal businesses. It shouldn't be any different for the football business. And yet for years and years, succession planning has almost been a dirty word in football, because players might feel threatened by it, coaches might feel threatened by it, chief executives might feel threatened by it, technical directors might feel threatened by it. We shouldn't be, because good businesses are well run when you've got a plan for the future.
I guess you'd expect a bit of a culture shock for him in the first 6 to 8 games, and presumably you'll help to prepare him for that, because we all know that when you walk into the Premier League for the first time, it's like walking into a whirlwind, isn't it? A maelstrom. And he might get a bit disorientated initially, but you've got the resources and the skills to see him through that initial bedding in period.
Well, I mean, I'll spare David's blushes here. This is a guy that's played hundreds of games at the top level for club and country, has been around football for a very long time. So we rely on the technical director to provide that almost sort of day-to-day support for a new head coach, and particularly one who's new to the Premier League and as we've said, is younger. But there are lots of people around the club now that have got 7-8 years experience of the Premier League here at Brighton, and many others that have got years of experience of the Premier League outside of this club. So around him there's going to be a lot of good people who understand the way the Premier League works, the ebbs and the flows, understand what it's like to lose 4, 5, 6 games in a spin, which you can do in the Premier League very easily, even playing well, and reassure him that that's not how we make our judgments. We don't necessarily just look at results, we're looking at underlying performances and all the factors that go into each game. And I think that experience hopefully he will feel immediately. I mean, I think even in the last day or two, spending time with David and myself and others around the club, he's remarked on how he feels that there's just a lot of support around him, people willing to help. And we always talk about creating the best possible environment for our coaches and our teams to succeed and our players to do well. That's what our job is.
I think that is quite a big oversight of people that judge the football club, is that we appear to unearth gems of managers. But what you said there, Paul, we give them a real foundation, and everything is in place for someone to succeed here, isn't it?
I think it goes for players as well, Glenn. I think that's, the environment, identifying the players is hard, but it's possible. But the environment you bring them into and the people that enable what happens on a day-to-day basis is really important, so that you can give them the security and the time to develop and to grow, and they don't feel like they're in an environment where they're judged on every action or judged on every movement. And I think that can be underestimated. And it's also the research you do into the characters you're bringing in terms of the personalities that you're bringing in, that they're good people, they understand, they're intelligent, they can adapt. And I think that, allied to a good environment is a good recipe for success. And we're not saying, we get it right every time, but I think the more and more you know what you're looking for and you put it together, then you give yourself a better chance, definitely.
Can that be frustrating sometimes? That it can fall on one person that gets applauded when it's not, it's the whole infrastructure of the football club?
I think Paul's point, the fact that even today when Fabian's referencing names and people feel a part of the journey already, I think he's established, that's, he is going to acknowledge people's part in that, and it's not going to be about the coach wins the games. There is a team behind the coach, and he's referenced his assistants, he's referenced the people who, some of whom he hasn't even really met yet, who he knows are going to be important to him. And I think that's a really good sign for us in terms of his understanding of, you know, how we as a club work. And I think that is a fundamental part to the success to this point now, is there's a lot of people who are part of that and feel part of that, and the fans are included, you know, in terms of spoken about how they affect the games, how that relationship develops, and how that impacts the performance and enables the players to win.
And as a former player, man management is huge, isn't it? And that is what he's applying right now. We haven't even seen him on the grass yet, as in a Brighton in coaching our team, but just him being in and around the place, this is all part of getting people on board and becoming together, I suppose.
Yeah, and you know, Glenn, players are human beings, you know, that a lot of people put them up on a pedestal, but ultimately they want to be valued, they want to be spoken to, they want to be communicated, they just want to know what's going on. And I think that's a fundamental part of human nature, just to feel valued and to know that you're not just a piece of meat or you're just a number, you're actually a human being. And I think Fabian's been really clear that he sees the value in that. And I think, you know, whether it's somebody working in the kitchen, somebody working in the office, or somebody in the team, that they've all got a value and they've all got an importance.
He said in the press conference that when his agent approached him, he said, "I would walk to Brighton to do that job." It must feel reassuring to have a guy who really wants to be here and perhaps wouldn't necessarily see this job as a stepping stone job. This is the perfect next move for him, but not short term, sort of longer term potentially, isn't it?
You know, I wish I'd known that before we started the negotiations. That would have been really helpful.
Wouldn't have paid for his flight.
No, joking aside, I think it does say a lot about, you know, him and the fact that he was aware of us. The progress the club has made has clearly impacted on him, which meant that when he first gets that contact, you know, there's an immediate reaction. Yeah, I'd like to go there. That's positive. I think also that he sees what's gone on before. You know, Chris Hughton did 5 good years here. Potter did 3 good years here. De Zerbi's done 2 good years here. He's seen that this has not been an overnight success story. There's been a succession of people, head coaches, players, staff, technical directors that have actually fashioned the last decade to get us to where we've got to. And I think, you know, one of the first things he said to me was that I want to be able to be part of that continued success. And, you know, I want to play my part in the next chapter, was one of the phrases he used, which I thought, again, was really articulate and mature for someone who hadn't worked in the Premier League before and realised this was going to be a big step up for them. And, yeah, I think he's got all the qualities to succeed. We've hopefully got the right people and the infrastructure around him to help him do that. And, of course, the players ultimately have to deliver on the pitch for him. And that relationship, you know, effectively starts today, and you know, we're looking forward to seeing how it pans out.
When he came to the Tottenham game and started cheering for the team at the Amex, did you know he was in the building?
Yeah, he was at the training ground, so he came to watch training, and he just contacted me through another sporting director just to see if it was possible to come and watch Roberto's session. So he actually spent a couple of days here previously, so that was around about Christmas. And
right.
So he obviously got chatting to me, he spoke to Croft, he spoke to Sam Hudson, one of our analysts, and he just could tell he's a football person. So obviously we were aware of him, but then when you understand the person a little bit, obviously not at the time, we're not thinking about him as for a coach as such for us, but it just created a good impression, created a relationship, and obviously he was on a bit of a tour of the UK, as he said, watching football games, and that's in his break, which probably tells you, you know, how he thinks.
And I think credit's due to Roberto as well, because he always said to David and I, if you want to bring people in, bring them in. I don't have a problem. Come and let them watch training. And, you know, that open culture, that friendliness, that willingness to say to other coaches, yeah, come and see what I do. I don't mind, you know, and I'm happy to chat. I think, again, it's credit to Roberto, because in a way it opened Fabian's eyes to us. It opened our eyes to Fabian. As David said, although at that time we were not thinking of him as a Roberto replacement, ironically, here we are 6-7 months later, and he's in Roberto's, you know, old job.
Yeah, it's all connections, isn't it? And he said he was bringing in a goalkeeping coach, an analyst and an assistant coach. Is it an advantage in a way for him to arrive with a smaller team, because you've got a good core of people here that you wanted to retain, and you haven't had 6 or 7 coaches coming in and knocking anyone out of the way, really? That's quite healthy, isn't it?
I think so. I mean, you know, the technical staff, you know, have their own view, but I think from my point of view, having a degree of stability around the club, generally is a good thing. And from a technical point of view, moving 7 coaches in and then 7 coaches out is hard. But a smaller group is probably easier to integrate.
It's circumstantial to a degree. I mean, as we know, when Graham left, he took a lot of staff with him, so that was a big gap to fill. Where in this instance, although Roberto's taking a lot of staff with him, we've still retained some good staff, and so we've made a good impression on us in the last couple of years and really developed as people, so we know they're going to help. And it's also important that the coach feels that he has his people and he has that trust in people he knows already. And I think that trust, Glenn, what it's like in terms of somebody you can speak to, you've dealt with before, is really important. And we've got to help him, obviously, and the people here have got to help him. We're really confident we'll do that. But I think it's also important that he feels he's got some familiarity and some people who he can be really honest with and understand him as well.
Do you think that it makes that transition easy for him, that he's got people that are valued by the football club and know what the football club's about, and almost teach him about us as he walks into the building already, rather than have a group of new people arrive?
Yeah, I think it's really helpful. I think the fact that Crofty and Jack, we've been around, we know the players, we know the group, who can kind of give them the inside story about what some people like, or what they are like, or what their journey's been recently, I think is really important. And I know today Fabian's meeting Crofty, they're going to have a good football chat, I know they'll get on, and I know they'll understand each other. And part of our responsibility is putting that together and understanding when we recruit a coach, is he going to be the type of person who's going to work with our people, embrace that and embrace our recruitment model and embrace the club and what we are, and that's putting those pieces of the jigsaw together is really, really important.
He strikes me as a kind of born coach in a way, because he stopped playing at 23 and immediately started thinking about coaching and the next stage in his life and development, and he's done it very, very quickly. You've met a lot of coaches, David, and worked with a lot. He's particularly outstanding, isn't he, in terms of his clarity of thinking and his messaging and his whole approach to the job?
Yeah, he has, and it's we're still getting to know Fabian. I think his work's clear in terms of what he's done. He's an intelligent man. You can see that within meeting him and speaking to him. He's very thoughtful and he's impressive. He's also had a good playing career. He was a very good young player. He played internationally for Germany at underage level and throughout, and then made a decision, which again is a big decision to make at that age, to go and say, okay, I'm going down another route. So that tells you that there's a bit of steel there, and obviously he went and started at a pretty low level. He was successful there, worked his way up, and worked with the national team again, coaching. So he's had a really impressive career in terms of what he's done, and I think Paul referenced it earlier about we talk about him as a young man, but he's not a young coach. He's had a lot of experience in terms of both playing wise, domestically and internationally, and also coaching wise, domestically and internationally. So that that gives us a lot of confidence and allied to the sport and the people we've got here, that this can be a really exciting chapter for us.
The message to the fans, Paul, would be just be patient, give him a bit of time. Let's just enjoy the first few games and see what's happening, and don't presumably don't load him with the expectations that came with the best of the De Zerbi period.
No, I think he'll be his own man, as he said in the press conference. He'll take the best of everybody that he's ever seen and worked with, but he's got to be his own man, and it will take time and have his own methods. And as he alluded to in the press conference, his style of play is a little bit different to Roberto's, which is different to Graham's, which is different to Chris's. So fans and all of us have got to be patient. Let him get his methods across. Let the players take those methods on board. Give them a chance to deliver them. And we know that there is no less forgiving league in the world than the Premier League. So, it's tough, and he's going in with a big game away at Everton to start with. It's a difficult place to go, as everyone knows. Last season at Goodison as well. So it's going to be a contrast in styles probably between Sean Dyche's Everton and Fabian Hurzeler's Brighton. But that's the fun and the excitement of the Premier League. They're the clashes that we're all looking forward to week in, week out. And I think the fans will take to him. I think he's a very good human. He's a very good communicator. I think he understands fan culture. He gets it. So I'm sure there'll be a good relationship that's built up between them.
Right, thank you very much for your time, fellas. I know it's been a very busy day, interesting day at the football club, and new horizons beckon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect. Smashing.
Thanks, everyone.
You're good at this, aren't you?
He's a natural.
Yeah,
That's why you're taking him to Japan, isn't it?
Well, it's his Japanese fluency we're taking him.